Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. The world needs to hear your message and your story, so don't deny the world of that gift within you that the universe has given you. Someone out there needs to hear your story because it will support them in feeling hope, inspired, and even transformed. Do you want to discover how I help get my clients out of their own way, show up, and confidently share their message? I would love to extend an invitation to you to join me in my free masterclass, Start Your Own Podcast from Idea to Implementation, on Wednesday, April 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can find the registry link in the show notes. Hope to see you there. Hello, everybody. Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Kat Polsinelli. She is an inspiring entrepreneur, the founder and owner of the Lotus Effect, a coach, a speaker, a podcaster, a newly published author, and last but certainly not least, a mother. Welcome, Kat. Thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today. I am so excited to jump in and share about all the beautiful light you put out into the world through the work you do, your journey, your story. How are you today?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited about this. I've been waiting for this one for a while. So
we have been trying to get this done for a while. So I'm grateful to have you here and I'm looking forward to jumping in. So with that being said, let's do just that. Now, of course, the job of a mother alone in itself is a gigantic one. But then to balance all of the other things that you're doing, it's a hell of a lot of hats you wear. So how do you prioritize and how important is prioritization and organization to you?
Ooh, definitely. I feel like as we grow in our lives, and especially when you have kids, your priorities can shift, they can change. You may be in one season of your life and one thing is more important, and then things kind of in what I call ebb and flow, right? Back and forth. And so prioritizing was really big for me, especially in the beginning. I just did my prioritizing a little wrong, I would say, in the beginning, because family is super important to me. So being there for my kids, being there for my husband, that has always been a priority of mine. And being able to show my kids, especially, the possibilities and where you can go in your life, regardless of what you've gone through, was always a huge piece that I wanted to show them. And so I really had to make a shift to prioritize different pieces in my business, and then make sure that I was also prioritizing time with my kids, which is a little different because they're teenagers, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as much as if someone that had younger ones, but I really had to learn to be okay with getting the bigger pieces done. And if I needed to take in a step back to be with my kids as they were kind of going through some of their things, and then knowing that I had the space to work on the other pieces in my business without shaming myself for not getting it done in a specific time frame.
All the fun trials and tribulations of the teenage years, always such fun with those years. Oh my gosh. So many different things. So prioritization would definitely be high on the list for sure. So wearing multiple hats and being a multidisciplinary, what does your morning routine look like?
Ooh. So interestingly enough, my morning routine has changed over the last probably year and a half. It went from, I'm supposed to get up super early so I can have my quiet time and I can do my things, to that really sucks, getting up that early. And so what I did was I learned what I really enjoy in the morning and what really works for me before I start my day. And what also allows me to not get up and be like, oh, right. And so for me, getting up at 5 a.m. is not it. So I generally get up around 6:30-ish. If my husband is at home from work, I love to cuddle for the first 10 minutes before I get up. And then I do stretching and I do some breathing. If I really feel called called to it, I'll do some meditation, and then it's get one kid off to school. And then I actually enjoy coming home and tuning into a podcast or a YouTube video or something that really lights me up. And I actually take the time to make breakfast and enjoy my cup of coffee. So I generally am actually not upstairs till about 8:30-ish before I get started. But I love having that space in the morning. And I love that I don't have to shove it in before everybody wakes up. And then I grumble about it because I'm tired and I want to get out of bed. So that's my new routine in the morning. But I do allow it to kind of flow as well. So if I do know I have a morning that I have to get in a little bit earlier, I make it a priority to at least do some breathing for a few minutes and do some stretches before I hop in. And then that way I don't beat myself up for not being able to do the entire routine.
Definitely not a member of the 5 a.m. club, though.
I'm not.
All right, we got that clear and out of the way. Can you share with us what you were doing for a living before you made the jump into entrepreneurship? And what was the catalyst for that leap into the entrepreneurial world for you?
Yeah, definitely. So my background is in, 20 something years of customer service, but I did 10 years in medical administration. So that is my background, is teaching and training and learning all the aspects of medical facilities. So, which I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed helping people. That was one of the reasons why I got into the medical field. What's interesting is the plan, which I feel like every time we set our own plans, it doesn't go accordingly. But the plan was that I was going to build this real estate business and get into real estate and then use my patients as the catalyst to shove me into real estate and have all this business. And what actually ended up happening was during the last several years of being in the medical field, I started to learn about my own healing. I learned about codependency and a lot of other different things, past traumas, triggers, and things like that. What that did was actually shifted my focus from, I don't have to do everything, and this is not my business. I can actually breathe. And so I started actually putting up boundaries. I stopped being the go-to yes person, and I started really understanding what meant a lot to me and what did not. That actually caused me to lose my job. So I was actually fired due to a moral disagreement on how my doctor was charging his patients. And it was a smack in the face. There was no warning. I didn't know it was coming. It was literally, I walked in on a Friday, did what I was supposed to do. And hey, guess what? Today's your last day. And so I jumped into the real estate and was like, screw it. Let's see what happens. And it was so interesting because through the steps of real estate, I kept coming back to helping other people. I started helping other realtors. I started building these connections and I'm like, I can do this and I can do that. And you can still bring business into this. And it just kind of took off from there. So it's so funny because where I'm at today is actually not where I thought I was going to be. I thought I was going to be a realtor and just make a bunch of money doing that. Yeah. But what I found was I loved serving people. And the more that I opened myself up to all of these possibilities, it started showing up in my life. I got to then choose which one of those possibilities I wanted to lean into. And that is actually what catapulted me into the coaching realm and this entrepreneurial journey that I will never let go of.
So you don't do real estate at all whatsoever anymore, or do you still dabble in it?
I am still dabbling in it. We are currently in the process of leaning out of it. I have some past clients that I adore, that I've made promises to helping. And I've also built up a beautiful network with other realtors that I can refer to. So that is the goal. And we've already started transitioning out of that because what I do in my business it's what I want to do. It is my mission. It is my purpose. And while I am great at real estate, it does not fill me the way that my coaching business does. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've talked to a lot of women who are coaches, and they talk about the fact that all the coaches have been through their personal shit. We all have as human beings, but there was a catalyst for each of them, I've found, that propelled them into the coaching world. Was there a catalyst moment for you in your journey? I know that you got fired from your job and then you went into real estate, but was there a catalyst there from real estate into coaching? Like a particular moment that just shifted you and you said, this is what I got to do. Fuck real estate.
So interestingly enough, it was kind of a series of events. So I was brought in from the brokerage that I worked with to take a corporate position to oversee onboarding and training and all these pieces. And what I started doing was I was like, okay, I like this. I want more of this. I don't like this. Let's get rid of that. And after about a year of doing that and running real estate, corporate became corporate again. I was like, I hate this. I don't care for the drama. I don't care for just all the things that can come with it. And my husband is actually the one that was like, why don't you just do your own business? And I was like, what does that mean? So it was really interesting. I kind of fell into coaching. And that was because when I decided to open up this entrepreneurial business, I thought I was going to focus on coaching for realtors. And so when I started networking and getting to know all these other people, and I jumped into a couple of masterminds, one in particular with Sabrina Victoria, who I adore, it just kind of kept I kept getting these nudges that like, ooh, you like, I did this all day and I am still excited and it's 9:00 at night. And I don't want to go to bed. And so it was this beautiful transition of this is what I thought I was going to do, but really paying attention to all of the small pieces that I then got to pick and pull from and be like, okay, this is what I want to do more of.
And so how do you think that these experiences have helped shape the Kat you are today, both personally and professionally?
Oh, wow. I feel like I have been completely redefined because I have had the opportunity to really step into who I am and who I want to be. I don't have to live by anybody else's rule books. I don't have to come in and be polished and prepped for a specific thing because that's how society wants me to be. It's really allowed me to lean into who I really am and allow that to become my entire identity so that I am not forcing one piece of me down this road and then another piece of me behind the scenes. And so it's broadened not only my view, but the way that I also see other people. And so the judgment just disappeared because I'm able to see people for who they are and what it is that they might be struggling with versus judging them like so many judged me.
And so what would you say then was the most valuable lesson or takeaway for you from these experiences?
I think the most valuable was learning to figure out who I was based on me. And what I mean by that is we talk with other people, we work in different spaces, and everybody's like, oh, you're great at this. You should do this. You're wonderful at this. You should do that. That's beautiful. And I appreciate those compliments wholeheartedly. And it is so easy for us to be like, oh, okay, then that's who I am.
Yes.
Versus taking a step back and saying, okay, I love that they recognize that about me. Is that something I really want to lean into? Or is it just like a little micro superpower that I'm great at doing? And do I want to keep that in my back pocket? And so that was probably the biggest piece for me was learning to really listen to myself and ignore all of the outside pieces so that I could figure out what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be without basing it around other people's beliefs.
Which is not easy to do. That takes a lot of work to get to that point where you can, yes, you take in what they say, but to tune it out when it comes to actually making the decision and leaning into your intuition and your gut to make that decision for sure. In the coaching world, what is it that sets you and the work you do apart from other coaches? Why would people choose to work with you?
Ooh, I love this question. Because this is like one of my favorite questions, because I have this beautiful ability to see people for who they are, even when they don't see it for themselves. And I get to take their puzzle and put it back together so that all the pieces fit the way they should be. And what I mean by that is I don't come in with this laid out system of this is how we're going to do it. This is what's going to work for you. Yes, there are some pieces that overlap for individuals, but I get to lean into who they are and then create something that makes them feel good, that's going to allow them to lean into the uncomfortable spaces. But instead of jumping off into the 12-foot deep end, we get to start in the 4 and 5 foot and kind of wade down into it. And for a lot of people, that's what they need. That's what I needed. And so I love that I get to meet people in that space and create this beautiful non-judgmental zone where they get to borrow my confidence and my courage, and they get to then utilize it for their own.
Love it. What, in your opinion, is one of the most important quality or skill sets in a coach?
Being able to shut up and listen. I am so serious. And when I mean listen, I don't mean hearing someone. You can have a conversation with anyone all day long and hear what they are saying. But what happens is you have your own thoughts. You have your ways that you want to come back at them. You like, oh, I want to tell them this idea. And you are so focused on it. You aren't actually listening to what they are saying. So I think that is the most important piece with a coach, is clearing your mind and not just hearing, but listening to what they are saying, because then you hear the emotions, then you hear the wording, and there you can understand the traumas and the triggers and the things that are holding them back, which propels you to ask them the questions you would never think to ask them.
Yeah, and it gives you the ability to read between the lines. And so many people listen just to fucking respond. They're so, like you said, they're so busy, caught up in their head thinking, okay, they're saying this. How am I going to respond to this? Or, oh, I got an answer for that. Or I can just listen. Just listen. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Use your fucking ears. People don't, though. A lot of people. And you know what's funny too is I did a survey in the Facebook community and asked how many people thought, and I knew I had an idea what the outcome was going to be. How many people actually thought they were good listeners? And 90% of them thought they're good listeners.
And it's a learned skill, right? I mean, I even had to learn to do it with my kids, because it's so easy to tune them out and just be like, okay, but just do it. But you're not actually hearing what their problem is. And so that's been a huge improvement with my kids as well, especially them being teenagers, and being able to see past the words, but understand what might be going on underneath.
What lights you up or inspires you the most about the work you do as a coach?
So many things. I think that my favorite, though, has to be when that light bulb moment goes off and that person is like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Oh my gosh, that is me. And you get to see them not only light up, but you can see the courage and the bravery building up in them, that they start to say, okay, I'm ready to do this. Okay, I'm ready to try this. I think I want to do it this way. And I'm like, great, let's go for it.
Now, on the flip side of that coin, what is one of the most challenging parts of the work you do as a coach?
I think the most challenging has to be when you meet this beautiful individual that you know has so much potential, and yet they are so caught up in the midst of their own thoughts that you can't reach them to show them the beauty that they are. And that can be so upsetting. And I also have to remind myself that they have to make the decision to believe in them. I can't do it for them. And so that probably has to be one of the most difficult things, is being able to see that and knowing when to push and realizing when they aren't ready.
What would you say are 3 of the most important lessons you've learned as a coach?
Oh, listening skills is definitely one of them. It's definitely one of the big ones. Not judging was another one. Learning to accept people for who they are wherever they are at, and knowing that we all have our own backstory and sometimes they just need to get it off their chest. That was a big one. And the third thing is knowing that you are not meant to fix everything. Especially as women, we just want to fix it. We just want them to feel better. Yeah. And you really have to play on this fence when it comes to that. And you have to wait until that person is really ready to go all in. Because if you try to go all in for them, you're just pushing a goal that to them doesn't make sense. And there's a complete disconnect. And so you are wasting your energy because they haven't got to that spot yet. And so that's a huge lesson that I've had to learn, is when to push, and then when to kind of say, okay, let's take a step back. Yeah. Maybe there's some extra things going on, and give them that space, because it really does have to be on their plate. They have to want it, not 1000%, but they at least have to crave it before you can help them in the journey.
Yeah, you can't want it for them. I love that self-awareness. That's really important. What intentional practices do you employ to ensure that your business aligns with your personal purpose and values and creates a positive impact on both clients and the world?
Boundaries. Boundaries are a big one. And when I say boundaries, it's not just who to say yes to and who to say no to. It's understanding who you want to help And when you see someone that wants help, yet they're not quite there, and having the courage to say, I would love to help you, and I think that you should start here.
Yeah.
That's a huge one. And so that's a big one in my business and my personal life, is having those boundaries. And those boundaries range from dealing with a client to hiring someone in the business to how I spend time with my kids and where I make time with my family. Those are all boundaries. Yeah. And while some of those boundaries do ebb and flow a little bit, you have to understand which ones are completely concrete. Nope, this is what I said. This is what I'm doing. This is what I promised. I'm sticking to that.
Yeah.
So being able to understand your own boundaries is so important and so powerful in a business.
We all struggle with that. Those boundaries are a tough thing to set up and stick to it, right? It's very hard. It's not an easy thing to do.
No, but not at all.
You got to do the work, and you have to for your own sanity, for your own personal well-being, for sure. Mm-hmm. In your coaching work, you help your clients with leadership, to time management, to mindset. All three of these things are very important for entrepreneurs. I'd love to hear your thought on how you personally define leadership, and how does mindset play a crucial role in effective leadership?
I love this. So leadership, I never really thought about this term until I got into the entrepreneurial space. And for me, the term leadership is someone that has the ability and capacity to not only lead others, but hold space for them as they learn how to lead themselves. That to me is the definition of leadership. So it's not someone that just comes in like a boss and says, okay, we're going to do this, but it's being able to say, I think this is what we should do, but what do you think? Where do you want to go? And you really have to, in order to lean into the leadership space, let go of your ego and know that you don't need to know everything. And that is the beauty of being in that space, because then you get to co-create with all of these people around you. And mindset plays a huge piece into that, because if you don't have the right mindset, if you are so focused on your ego, if you are so focused on being in charge, you can't be a great leader. So you have to be able to shift your focus. You have to be able to shift your mindset and say, okay, this is what I'm great at, and this is what I'm not. And I'm okay with saying that I'm not, to see who can help me in these areas.
And that is the sign of an amazing leader, is being able to admit when you don't have all the answers and lean on your team. You have to. That's what they're there for. Mm-hmm. It's okay to lean on other people. It's okay to ask for help as a leader. Just because you're a leader doesn't mean you don't need help and that you have all the answers.
Yeah. And that's a really hard one, especially for women, because we are so taught to be in charge, be in control, take care of this, and have all of these different things. I mean, I myself got really down on myself. Like, I'm like, I don't know everything. Like, people are going to think worse of me, or they're not going to listen to me. And that is so not true. It is so not true. There's actually so much more power behind you being able to say, I don't have an answer to that, and being honest than being a know-it-all.
So how did you get past that roadblock or that hurdle?
Setting boundaries was the first thing. And that meant boundaries for myself as well. So I had to say, okay, I refuse to lie. I refuse to pretend. I want to lean into being honest. Those are my integral parts of who I am. And then honestly, you just have to make the leap and kind of cringe and see what happens. But from that, you get to build up this new truth, because all of our brains, all it is this bucket full of beliefs and truths that a lot of times are put on us by other people. And so you have to decide, this is how I want to do it, and let's see what happens. And then when you do get that positive result, you have to celebrate the shit out of it and then remind yourself the next time that you go into it, okay, wait, brain, I know what you're saying, but I remember when I did this and it actually worked out better. You really do. You have to reprogram the brain and how it sees these truths, because it just sits and spins on this same thing until you can prove differently.
Yeah, that's the ego trying to protect you. You have to do it. You just have to take the leap and put in the work and do it. Know that you can do it. Believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, with mindset, of course, being an integral part of the work you do with your clients, as we've been speaking about, I'd love to speak a little bit about the whole mindset piece and get your take on it. Can you speak to how important a part mindset played in helping you through your struggles and just how important mindset is to our daily routines and successes?
Yeah, definitely. And the word mindset, I feel like, is an overly used term. So if you really want to break down mindset, by definition, it's just a mental attitude, right? And there are different types of mental attitudes. You can have a fixed mindset, so you don't care to hear anybody else. It's ruled by the ego. You could have a negative mindset where you see everything that's horrible and miss all of the beauty around you. Or you can have a positive mindset or growth mindset. And so really it's just the attitude that not only is in your brain, but it's what you emulate out of you. And that is what defines how you do things on a day-to-day basis. So if you choose to have this growth mindset, this positive mindset, even when days are hard, they're not as hard as they used to be. Even when you have moments, they become moments, not an entire week that just shits everything up and you miss all of the other things. It really does come down to that. And you have to work on it. I still work on mine. We always have thoughts that play in the back of our mind, but we can make the decision to acknowledge that thought or let it pass and focus on what we choose to have our mindset set on.
I had someone tell me a little while ago that using the word mindset is not a good way to do it because that word itself says you're set in that particular way of thinking. They said use mind. What did they say? Use mind shift. That was it. Mind shift.
Ooh, interesting.
Use the word mind shift instead of mindset. So I don't know, just input there. What are the three most common issues that you see in working with your clients around mindset or mind shift?
I definitely think that one is not having boundaries. That's always a huge one. Two, not believing in what they are capable of. And three, perfectionism. That's a huge one with my clients. And so all three of those play into each other. If you don't have boundaries, then that means you're constantly going to be trying to do everything for everyone. And then if you're constantly doing that, you're constantly trying to perfect it because you're never going to think that anyone believes in you and it's never going to be good enough, which then plays back into you not being able to believe in yourself. And so you really have to be able to set boundaries and tell yourself, no, I'm good enough. I can learn. I can always improve, but where I'm at right now is fine. Yeah. That's okay. And for those that don't accept that, it's not the people that you want to be around anyway.
Exactly. Now, keeping on this same path of mindset, and you briefly touched on it, the fact that just because we have struggled with a certain imposter syndrome or whatever it may be in the past and gotten through it, learned how to, we'll say, turn the volume down or turn the internal noise down, it doesn't mean, as you said, that we still don't struggle with those things. They still come up. We still have to deal with them, but we've learned how to deal with them in a quicker and better manner or a better fashion. So would you agree with that just because we've been through the trenches does not mean that we still struggle with those things? And can you share a little bit about your struggles that you still deal with personally that you previously dealt with, but have learned to kind of turn the volume down?
Yes. And I do think that we always have the opportunity to improve. And I love that you said we can tune the volume down. What happens is you become aware of them. And when you become aware of them, that's when you can stop them in their tracks. Beforehand, I would hear all of these thoughts and all of these things, and it was almost like they went so fast. I didn't even know what they were, but I knew the feeling that was associated with it. And so I had a beautiful spiritual coach that I have worked on and off with for 2 years. And she said, why don't we create radio stations? And I was like, okay. And she said, what you do is every time that you have a thought, you put it in that radio station. So this is the radio station of self-doubt. This is the radio station of positivity. This is the radio station of I'm not enough. And you got to separate it. But what it did was it allowed me to slow down those thoughts, pick up on what they were, and then decide which bucket I wanted to put them in and if I wanted to continue to listen to them or not. So it was a really cool visual tool that I used for quite a while. And And even to this day, you said, what am I still kind of dealing with? What are some of the things that I go back to? Well, after being in an abusive relationship for 10 years and being diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, and told that I had basically been brainwashed, there are a lot of things that are still integrated into my being because of that 10-year span. I'll give you an example. One of them is not being able to be friendly with other people. Not because my husband is against it, but because in my relationship, I was not allowed to look at other people. I wasn't allowed to smile. I wasn't allowed to have conversations. Wow. Anything that I did was considered flirting, or I was doing something else. So it got to the point to where I would walk through Walmart and stand behind him and keep my head down just to stay out of trouble.
Holy shit.
So when you think about that, and that's done consistently and consecutively for years, while I am in a beautiful relationship where there is nowhere to be found those types of things, we had a situation and it was all on me. It was not on my husband, but I brought it up to him because I wanted him to understand and I kind of wanted to call it out. And so my husband was out of town for work for about a week and my oldest son's girlfriend came over for a couple of days. And so when my husband got back, he went to see our next door neighbor who lives directly across from us. And they were just chit-chatting and stuff like that. When my husband came back, he said, oh, we were talking and he was like, oh, did you know there was a car here all week? And I immediately sunk. Immediately, I felt horrible. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? I didn't do anything, but that was the feeling because it's so ingrained in who I was. And so I kind of sat with it for a minute and I was like, well, but it wasn't anybody. It was just his girlfriend. And he was like, oh, okay. And when he did that, I was like, oh, this is one of those moments. And so I stopped and I said, I have to tell you this. And so I explained the whole thing to him. And he was like, I never thought that it was because you had someone over. I said, no, I understand that. And I said, I really do. And I believe that you believe me. I said, but what I'm telling you is this is the old belief pattern that is still in my brain. This is some of the things that I still deal with when you say certain things. And I know that there is no vicious meaning behind it, but I literally have to break it down, stop myself, replay what's actually happening, and then say, no, that's old. This is now. Yeah. Time to let that one go.
The conditioning is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's horrible to break out of that. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of work.
A lot of work. And it's been 10 years this year since I left that relationship. And there are still things that come up that I deal with. I just choose to blurt them out and make myself uncomfortable so that I can tell myself it's bullshit. That is the way that I work. And that has worked tremendously for me. And I'm blessed because I have someone that I can do that and I can say that to. And he just listens and accepts and then responds in a way to assure me that old way of thinking is not true.
What is one tip or takeaway that listeners can implement immediately to start reconditioning their mind for the success they want?
Oh, one or two tips. You know what? I'll tell you what worked for me in the very beginning. I had a very negative outlook for a really long time. And I did not see myself as enough. So one of the things that I started doing was, well, two things, actually. One was every morning that I woke up, I thought of three things that I was grateful for. And I didn't just say them, but I leaned into the feeling, really leaned into it. I'm so blessed to have an amazing husband by my side. I'm so blessed to have my children beside me who listen to me. We have an amazing relationship now. Like I really felt into those emotions and connected with that. And I did that every morning. And if I had a really hard day, I did it at night before I went to bed. That was the first thing. And then the other thing that I did was I started complimenting and cheering on other people. That was the most awkward, uncomfortable thing I ever had to do. It was so icky because I was not used to it and nobody ever did it for me. And so I forced myself to do it. And then what I did was, instead of just being like, hey, congratulations, I really tried to feel into like, you know what? I am happy for you. I'm going to be there one day. Congratulations. Like, hell yeah to you. Yeah. And I really started feeling into those emotions. And I think that's the difference. There's a lot of people that say, oh, just write things that you're grateful for. Just write down things that are positive. You can write all you want. Yeah. If you do not connect with that emotion, if you don't feel it, it isn't going to change anything. No, we make decisions decisions and everything off of emotions. How we react to things are from our emotions. And so you have to connect to those feelings. And then when you do, you almost get addicted to it. And then that's like all you want to do because you're like, yeah, I get to tell this person they're great. And I get to tell this person. And it's so uplifting to the point that I can be having a bad day and I can send a message to someone. I usually do a voice message because I love people to hear the excitement. And I swear to you, within a matter of 30 seconds of getting into that message and telling them how proud I am of them or how great they're doing, everything shifts. I feel better. I'm happier. And I'm like, all right, we can go back to doing what we're doing. So those are two things I think that are extremely important to integrate into your life right now to make a small shift.
Well, we are emotive beings. Emotions is part of our makeup. We have them and you can stuff them down all you like, but they're there. And being able to celebrate other people is just such an incredible gift. I love doing that. It's an incredible gift you can give people because they can hear the enthusiasm, the happiness, the authenticity in your voice when you are leaving them those voice notes. It's a beautiful thing to be able to do for other people. And you can change the trajectory of someone's day by doing that, which is incredible because that makes you feel really good too.
Yeah, it's a full circle.
Yeah, 100%. A growth mindset is fundamental. How do you guide leaders in fostering and maintaining a growth mindset, especially in the face of failure or challenges?
That can be an interesting one, but I will say that my favorite thing to do is to constantly celebrate the small wins. That is a huge piece to really focus on, especially when you do fail. It's like, okay, awesome. We failed. Now we know what not to do again. And people look at me and be like, what? No, you have to. That's the whole point of this journey. That's where you learn. That's where you grow. That's how I figured out what I wanted to do more of and what I didn't want to do more of. So when I am meeting with people, when I am having these conversations with leaders, I love to take them back, especially when they're having a hard time and say, okay, well, what went right? And sometimes you get that look like, what? Because they're so in that moment, everything else is blinded around them. So I make them take that moment. I say, okay, that's fine. We'll focus on that problem in just a minute, but what has gone right? And let's come back to that because then that opens up the brain to be able to see how you can fix the problem, how you can go about your failure differently. If you're so stuck on the problem and what you failed on, you are never going to see how you can change it. You're not. Your brain puts blinders. If you've ever heard of Tony Robbins does this cool little exercise where he says, okay, I want you to close your eyes and think of everything that's, pick a color, blue in the room, right? And then you open your eyes and say, okay, well, tell me everything that's brown. Well, you're not going to remember anything that's brown because your brain was focused on blue. So if your brain is focused on the problem and it's focused on, well, I failed and this didn't go right and that didn't go right, you are not going to be able to see the solution that's right in front of you. So you have to come back to the small moments and put yourself in a different space, whether that is breathing, meditating. For me, it's smells. I love smelling different things. I keep sage with me. I keep Palo Santos by me, and it allows me to just refocus where I'm at. And then you can problem solve.
Failures are great. Like you said, that's how we learn. We need to learn to make friends with failure. A woman I had on the podcast a while ago, that was her. She did a TEDx talk on that, making friends with failure. We need to learn to do that because that's how you're going to learn. That's how you're going to grow. That's how you're going to expand. Failure is great because you got to be able to look for the lesson, look for the silver lining in every situation and pull out of it, extract out of it what you need in order to move forward. And the celebration piece, we as human beings need to do a much better job of celebrating our wins. We don't celebrate our wins.
Yeah.
Overarching, we don't. When we look at it, we don't typically celebrate our wins. And celebrate, like you said, celebrate the small ones. It doesn't matter how small they are. They're still wins. You need to celebrate them because all of those small wins equal a big win.
Always. Yeah. Every once in a blue moon, you may get a big win out of the blue, right? Yeah. But I can guarantee you can find all the small pieces that built up to that. And so focusing on those small pieces to me is the catalyst that can really help you see when you make it to the big win. And so it's so important. And when I mean celebrating, I don't mean like, oh, awesome, I got another client, on to the next call. Like seriously celebrate, take 5 minutes, do a dance, yell out loud, like whatever works for you. For me, I love to go sit outside and I'll go soak in the sun. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. But you have to actually celebrate it, because it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, no, that's great. Okay, next thing. You didn't actually celebrate it. You just heard it.
You acknowledged it, and that's it.
Yeah.
100%. How do you assist leaders in balancing their personal and professional lives, ensuring that they maintain a healthy mindset across all aspects of their leadership journey?
I do it first by taking out the word balance. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm not a huge fan of balance, because balance means that one thing takes precedent and the other one. And for me, I think of it like a song. You have ebb and flow in your business and in your personal life. And if you think of a song, not every instrument is playing at the same time. Not every instrument is playing at the same volume. Some have a solo, some have duets. If you think about it, there's this beautiful ebb and flow that goes back and forth. And if you can learn to accept that in your business and your personal life, it allows you to see, one, where your priorities lie, and two, where you need to put more focus, and when it's okay to say, you know what, I thought that was important. I actually can do that tomorrow. It's fine. Nobody's going to die. But having this beautiful ebb and flow in your life can really help shift the trajectory of how you work in your business, how you work in your personal life. It makes it easier to set boundaries. It makes it easier to say no. And it makes it a lot easier to shift your mindset and be able to say, oh, okay, cool. You know what? Today was crazy. I got these 3 things done. That was the priority. Hell yeah. Now I'm going to go spend time with my kid. Yes.
That's the thing. We build up these things to be so fucking important, and they're really not. We're not saving anybody's life here. As entrepreneurs, we're not saving lives typically. In the entrepreneurial journey, we're not saving anyone's life. No one's going to die if we don't get X, Y, and Z done in a day. It's okay. It will still be there the next day. But that's another hard lesson to learn and another mind shift to get into, right? It's not easy. All of this entrepreneurial journey is fucking hard. There's so many pieces.
It's a challenge. It is such a challenge. And you know what, though? If you enjoy being challenged, if you enjoy trying to get over hurdles, you are going to thrive in the entrepreneurial space. But you have to enjoy that. And I'm not saying like every single time, like, yay, another challenge. But being able to say, oh, okay, that's fine. I can test this out. Let's see what happens. Yeah. You really have to have fun with it.
Yes,
and that really is what makes the entrepreneurial space so much more enjoyable.
I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It's amazing. It really is. It's a huge test and it's a long road, but it is so worth it. So worth it. Can you tell us a little bit about your company, the Lotus Effect? How did you come up with the name? What's the company all about? And what was the inspiration behind starting it? And when did you start it?
Oh, okay. So originally it was started almost 4 years ago, and it actually was not called the Lotus Effect. Okay. That was not the original name. As I talked about in the beginning, I thought I was going to deal with realtors only. So the name was actually Agent Services Plus. Okay. And in the beginning of last year, I saw this beautiful shift in what I was doing and how I was helping people. And I really realized that, yes, like I'm great at the business strategy, and that's always wrapped in, but so many people are looking for connection. So many people are looking to see things differently, and they just need someone to guide them through it so they can find their own light. And so the lotus itself is extremely symbolic to me. I have it tattooed on me. I got it tattooed a few years ago, but the lotus to me was always a reminder from my abuse that no matter the crappy mud that we are put in, we can rise to the surface and turn into something that's beautiful. And so I realized that's what I strive for in my company is to guide people out of that muddy, murky water that we can't see through and help them rise to the surface so that they can then blossom into whatever is uniquely them. And so that became the catalyst behind the Lotus Effect, was that I provide entrepreneurs with that space. I meet them where they are at. I guide them through that mud, and then they get to blossom into what is them. And that really is what I strive for in my business completely.
Just have to say the Lotus Effect is a much more magnetic and inspirational name.
Thank you.
100%. Now, as mentioned off the top, you are also a podcast host, which I have had the distinct pleasure and honor of being a guest on your show. Can you share with the audience a little bit about the podcast? Subject matter? Is it interview style, solo, a mix of both? And what was the inspiration for you behind starting a podcast?
Yeah. So the name of the podcast is Real Chat with Kat, and it is completely conversational style. And I loved this because so many things come out when you're just conversating back and forth with people, and you can have such amazingly deep conversations. Funny enough, I actually started the podcast because I thought, again, I was chasing realtors and I was like, cool, I'll make a podcast about realtors and I'll help them and people will want to work with me. What ended up happening very quickly is I started meeting other people and I was like, okay, well, let's bring other people on it. Like, why not? Everything is business related. And all of these conversations started coming up about personal development and struggles that they've been through and where it's put them today. And I was like, oh, I love this so much more. And so I then dedicated the podcast to creating and igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and journey. And I use this as a way to empower others to conquer their horizons. I wanted to create something where people could hear from other people and be like, oh my gosh, I struggle with that. It's not just me. And so it's this beautiful mixture from entrepreneurs all over the world where we get to have a beautiful conversation around their business, what they've done, their journey through that, where it's led them to. And some are a little bit more business oriented and we share tips because I feel like the audience needs to hear it. And others, it's more of a connection with their story and how it's led them to where they're at. And I love being able to leave it open like that because I feel like whatever comes out is what the audience needs to hear at that point in time. And I have gotten such amazing feedback by doing it that way. But the whole purpose is to create this support and for people to understand whatever they're going through, they're not the only person who's going through it.
Love it. We also mentioned off the top about the published author, and you just told me about this off air before we jumped on air, so it's fairly new. So please talk a little bit about that journey for you.
Yeah, definitely. So this one came out of the blue. And so I had this amazing lady named Lonnie Ray who reached out to me, and she has this series called Rattled Awake. I am actually a co-author in volume 6, which was just released. And the question that was asked was, in the last 5 years, what has happened in your life that rattled you awake? And I was like, oh, I got a good one. I mean, I've got tons of them. But what was interesting and so beautiful was my journey with my children has been a huge catalyst over the last 5 years. My oldest one specifically, my younger one is now 16. My oldest one is 19. And it was interesting when I really look back on the last 5 years, like that is when I really leaned into healing who I thought I was and leaning into who I knew I was. And through that meant I also needed to be having those conversations with my young teens, especially boys, and let them know that you're allowed to have emotions. You're allowed to have bad days. You're allowed to feel like shit. It's okay. It's part of it. I need you to express that, not hold it inside because it's not going to do you any good. Nope. And so that is what my chapter is about, is how leaning into my own healing and then using that as a catalyst on how I shifted the the way that I parent my kids and the amazing transformation that it made in my life and in their life, and how that led into better leadership on my part and better communication, which then projected across everything. It had this beautiful ripple effect in my life. So it helped in my business. It helped in my personal life. It helped with my kids, my spouse, my friends. So anyway, that is what the whole chapter is about. I could go on. I just love this. But that's what the chapter is really around, is what rattled me awake over the last 5 years. And that was the moment of seeing what my kids were going through and then realizing, oh, crap, they aren't healed. They're suffering through the things I'm suffering through. I never realized that. I thought it was just teenagers. No, there's things behind that, especially with them being around the abuse for so many years. And so I get to now give them tools that they get to walk away with in their young adult life that I didn't have. And I think that's beautiful to be able to offer that, because now I get to see them talk to their friends like that,
Yes,
and they
share
get to
those
offer
gifts.
it. Yes.
For sure. I love it. Thank you for sharing that, Kat. What do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
So many superpowers. I would say one of the biggest superpowers that I feel like I have realized is the ability to meet people where they are at, see them for where they are, and then also be able to see them for what I know they can be. And being able to lean in and listen so hard that I have these beautiful, we're going to call them downloads, that just come out of nowhere. And I ask the right questions and I bring up the right things. And I say, okay, well, it sounds like you're saying this. And it is amazing the feedback that I get and how much it resonates with people, versus what I used to do was to just try to think completely logical, make sense of everything, and it never got me anywhere. And so I have this beautiful superpower to just lean in and say, okay, you know what? Whatever comes in my brain, that's what we're spitting out. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to try to figure it out. Screw it. Just go with it. And it has made such a difference. And it really does allow me to understand people at their core and then know how to help them moving forward.
How do you define the word success?
Ooh. I think that success can be defined in so many different ways, and we forget that. Success is defined by the things that you want or desire in your life, and that's different for everybody. For some people, that can be monetarily. For some people, that could be just the freedom to be able to travel, to spend time with their family. Success is not one definition. It's a multitude of definitions, and we get to define it each as individuals. And for me, success for me is having freedom to be able to do all the things I've always wanted to do and be able to help others the way I wish I would have been helped.
What would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before you learned it? What was your life like after learning it?
One of the most important things that I learned was I can trust myself more than I can trust anybody else. And what that means is, before in my life, I trusted everybody else's opinion. In my abusive relationship, anything that he told me, I became that. If it was my fault, it was my fault. If it was my problem, it was my problem. If I started it. If someone told me that I was too loud, I was too loud. If someone told me you're not approachable, I was not approachable. I allowed other people's definitions to define me. And now all of that has been scrubbed away. And I get to define me because I trust in who I know that I am, and there's no one out there that can tell me I am different.
Beautiful and powerful lesson. I love it. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
Empowerment to me is a feeling. Empowerment is what you feel when you step into that uncomfortable space. Empowerment is what you feel when you don't think you have courage, but you do it anyway. When you don't feel brave, but you try it out anyway. And that ultimately does create bravery, and it does create the courage because you did it. And so to me, empowerment is the feeling behind that. And it brings up your vibration, it brings up your energy, and it propels you to want to do more, to want to push more to people or help more people or do better in your life. That is empowerment. But I would say it's a feeling when you step into those other spaces.
Yes. thanks. Okay, we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section here. So next grouping of questions just be 2, 3, 4 word answer type thing, okay?
Sure.
How would you describe yourself in one word?
Ooh, brave.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
That you can be authentic regardless of what anyone else thinks.
What never fails to make you laugh?
All of the small, stupid things that happen throughout the day that go wrong.
If you could teach the world one thing, what would it be?
You have more power within yourself than you realize.
What is your favorite self-care practice?
Sitting outside in the forest.
And that concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. I have this thing I'm trying to think of a name for this. It's just a question I toss in I didn't send it to you, so you have no idea what it is, but I call it the money question. I got to think of a better name. That doesn't fit. But anyway, if you could take one feeling or one belief and bottle it and give it to people, what would it be?
Courage.
Beautiful. If you could step into my shoes, what question would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
Ooh. Ooh. That's a really good question. I would say, through your journey of abuse, what is something you wish other people knew?
Go ahead.
And to answer that question, I would say...
You had to know that was coming.
I know. And to that, I would say, whatever moment you are in, whatever thing you are suffering in right now, no matter how hard it feels, no matter how debilitating it feels, there is a fucking way out. And I promise you, if you stick with it, it will show up.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Kat. Appreciate the vulnerability. What is one thing that you know now you wish you knew when you started your entrepreneurial journey?
That you actually do have the ability to build it your way. And while having a coach and listening to other people is amazing, learn to take what resonates with you and learn to leave what does not.
What is your why?
Oh, my why. Well, my why has always been my boys. I want them to see what they are capable of. I want them to see what power they hold within themselves that they don't realize they have. And in that why, I get to extend that to every person I connect with, touch, or gets to hear me.
If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. One woman in the world. You know what? I think, especially recently, Drew Barrymore would be one of my favorite people to sit down with. And I say that because I've always loved her to begin with. And lately I have seen how vulnerable and open she is in the public eye with her TV show and everything. And I would love to sit down and have that kind of a deep conversation with her to see where she has grown.
Well, we'll put it out there to the universe and get her on your podcast. There we go. We're just putting it out there right now. You heard it here first. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Ooh, just because you feel that you are failing everyone now does not make you a failure.
Powerful. Lastly, Kat, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your tribe, your corner of the world, your people, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
You will always hear that shit is hard. And you will always hear that unless you have motivation and unless you have courage, you can't do it. Bullshit. You already have the courage, the bravery, and everything inside of you. You just have to find it and unleash it.
Beautiful, powerful, amazing way to end the interview. Kat, thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today, for sharing a little bit about your journey, your story, for your vulnerability, and just for being amazing you. I appreciate you, and I'm so grateful to have you as a member of the Empowerography community. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing. I appreciate all that you have done today. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to broadcast this out to other people.
My pleasure and my honor. Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest has been Kat Polsinelli. She is an inspiring entrepreneur, the founder and owner of the Lotus Effect, a coach, a speaker, a podcaster, a newly published author, and last but certainly not least, a mother. Thanks so much, Kat. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at viseuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.